Yeah, but Pauline, I think monoculture is seen as too extreme a term. It suggests we don't allow for variations in background in this country, which are obvious around the country when you look at Indians, Italians, Sikhs, Chinese, Middle Eastern people. They're all expressing some elements of their culture while embracing Australian values.
Yeah, and if you talk to a lot of these people also from different cultural backgrounds as I have, they said, we are Australians. We are so proud to be here. It's not just about the culture of a person, it's about the culture of the nation, who we are. Our traditions, our own cultures, our language, our dress, our laws. These are all monocultural, Chris. You can't have different laws. We don't have multicultural laws, do we? We have a monocultural law where everyone is treated the same under the one law. So if people have chosen to come to Australia, they know what they're doing. They say they want to become on board to be Australian. I think that's very important. I think that Angus Taylor, to actually criticise this, I think he's actually sitting on the fence. He can't make a decision about this. Are you Australian or you're not Australian? Do you want to just come here and take for benefit, granted what this country offers you, but you don't want to give your love to this nation?
Pauline Hanson, are you worried that One Nation's success will just cause more pain for the coalition in state and federal elections, change the mix of seats on the centre-right, but just help keep Labor in power?
Before we continue, do us a little favour by subscribing to the channel, because over 98% of you watching haven't subscribed. It costs you nothing, not even a penny, to join this channel. Have you subscribed? Thanks so much.
That's ridiculous, because that's the only argument that they have got, is that it's all about them, that they're going to lose their seats, their positions. They are responsible also for the state of the country. Now, climate change started under the Howard government. He started the carbon emissions scheme. So a lot of these issues started way back then with the coalition. A lot of things I've had to pull them back. They would never have addressed immigration if it wasn't for One Nation. They would never have addressed net zero if it wasn't for One Nation. So I'm not going to stand back and say, oh, listen, don't worry about it. I'm not going to upset your little cartel, just you and the Labor Party. The Australian people have their say. I'm putting up my policies, what I want to do for the country. I want to drive this nation forward to get back prosperity, give the future generations some hope for where they're going to go in their life. So if the Libs don't want to, work with me, it's just ridiculous to use this argument that I'm going to destroy and hand it back to Labor. That's a load of rubbish.
Now, in your speech yesterday, you mentioned the failure of Indigenous policy in this country, billions of dollars spent with so many problems still apparent, the gap not being closed. How would you tackle the obvious social problems of crime and dysfunction in remote Aboriginal communities and town camps in places like Alice Springs?
It is, Chris, and it's not about the money. We poured so much money into it. Yes, there's no closing the gaps. Yes, your education. Yes, your housing. Yes, also the health issues. They're still on the rampant. They're actually going up and up and up. I spoke to an Indigenous woman who came up to speak to me. She said, we are not getting the money. There is so much corruption from these organisations that are just wasting the money. It's not getting to the grassroots. That's where you start, Chris. You have a complete audit of the Aboriginal industry, where the money is gone. I want accountability. I want transparency. And yet neither the Labor Party or the Coalition have been strong enough to make that happen. There has to be accountability. Now, these remote communities, they talk about they want their culture and all the rest of it. How often do we go out there and support those people on pastorals, graziers, those families that are living in remote areas? Do they get the assistance that these Aboriginal communities get? No, they don't. It's their choice to live in those areas. Maybe we need to have a look at why be so remote. I understand the cultural background to it, but we're not giving these people a helping hand and moving forward and getting them jobs, a decent lifestyle, employment, and to move forward with education.
Now, Pauline, you had a bit of a go at Canberra yesterday at the National Press Club. You said you'd try and avoid the place as much as possible. Are you more at home today in Townsville?
I love it up here. I am more at home in Queensland, Chris, by all means. But Canberra is a necessary evil for me. And although I met so many people, all those Comcar drivers, security guards and everyone like that, they're beautiful people. They say they love Canberra. Well, that's fine. I won't take up any extra housing in the capital city.
Thanks for joining us, Pauline Hanson.
Thanks.
Canberra, a necessary evil. Hey, I know a lot of people in Canberra don't like their nation's capital being spoken about in those terms, but as someone who used to travel there a lot for work, I know the feeling.
Another political firestorm has erupted in Australia, and this one isn't about inflation, housing or interest rates. It's about something even more fundamental: national identity. This week, Senator Pauline Hanson reignited one of the country's longest-running debates after explaining what she believes it means to be Australian, arguing that people from every background can proudly become Australians by embracing the nation's laws, institutions, and shared civic values. Supporters applauded the message. Critics argued it oversimplified Australia's multicultural reality. Either way, the comments immediately exploded across political circles, talkback radio and social media. From the very first question, it was clear this wasn't going to be an ordinary interview. The discussion began with a word that has generated enormous controversy in Australian politics: monoculture. The interviewer questioned whether that term sounded too extreme for modern Australia, pointing out that Australians come from countless cultural backgrounds while still contributing to national life. Across the country, communities with Indian, Italian, Chinese, Greek, Vietnamese, Middle Eastern, Pacific Islander, and many other heritages have become part of Australia's story while participating in Australian civic life. Hanson acknowledged Australia's diversity, but argued that her focus was different. According to her, the discussion wasn't primarily about family heritage or cultural traditions brought from overseas. Instead, she argued it was about the culture of the Australian nation itself. In her view, Australia functions because citizens operate under one legal system, one democratic framework, and one set of national institutions. That distinction became the centrepiece of the interview. Hanson argued that Australians are equal before the law, regardless of where they or their families originally came from. She suggested that people who choose Australia as their home often describe themselves proudly as Australians while maintaining aspects of their personal heritage. For her, those two ideas are compatible so long as Australia's shared civic framework remains the foundation. Whether people agree or disagree with that perspective, it quickly became one of the week's most discussed political moments. Within hours, commentators from across the political spectrum began weighing in. Some argued Hanson was emphasising civic unity and equal treatment under Australian law. Others argued the language she used risked creating unnecessary division or misunderstanding about multicultural Australia. As always with identity politics, opinions were deeply divided. The timing made the discussion even more significant. Australia continues debating immigration levels, housing affordability, social cohesion, and national identity all at the same time. Every one of those issues intersects with broader questions about how Australians see themselves as a nation. That is why a conversation that initially appeared philosophical quickly became intensely political. Hanson also turned her attention toward the coalition, arguing that One Nation has influenced debates on issues such as immigration and energy policy over recent years. She suggested larger parties had increasingly addressed topics they were previously reluctant to discuss because public concern had continued growing. Critics strongly dispute that interpretation, pointing to broader political and economic developments that have shaped those debates. Nevertheless, Hanson maintained that smaller parties can influence national conversations even when they are not in government. The discussion then moved beyond politics in Canberra and toward ordinary Australians. Throughout the interview, Hanson repeatedly contrasted everyday families with political insiders. She spoke about regional communities, working Australians, young people trying to buy their first homes, and families concerned about the country's future. Her broader message was that many Australians want practical solutions alongside a strong sense of national belonging. Supporters viewed that as a message about unity through shared citizenship. Critics argued that national identity should also explicitly recognise Australia's cultural diversity as one of its strengths. That disagreement reflects a broader conversation taking place across many democratic countries. Around the world, governments continue debating how best to balance national identity, immigration, integration, and social cohesion. Australia is hardly alone. Canada, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and several European nations have all experienced similar debates in recent years. Back in Australia, political reactions came quickly. Government figures continued emphasising Australia's multicultural success and the importance of inclusion. Opposition politicians offered differing views depending on their own policy priorities. Crossbench senators also entered the discussion, highlighting the complexity of balancing national unity with respect for cultural diversity. Outside Parliament, social media became its own battleground. Supporters praised Hanson's emphasis on equal treatment under Australian law. Others argued Australia has long succeeded precisely because people can maintain aspects of their heritage while fully participating in Australian society. The exchange demonstrated just how emotionally charged questions of identity remain. The interview later shifted toward broader policy matters, including Indigenous affairs and regional development. Hanson argued that government spending should always be accompanied by transparency, accountability, and measurable outcomes. She suggested stronger oversight of public programs while emphasising opportunities in education, employment, and community development. Those proposals generated their own debate, with supporters arguing greater accountability improves public confidence and critics questioning aspects of her broader approach. The conversation eventually turned back to politics itself. Hanson dismissed suggestions that one nation's electoral performance simply benefits Labour by dividing Conservative voters. Instead, she argued that every political party should compete on ideas and allow Australians to decide at the ballot box. Whether voters agree with that assessment remains a matter for elections rather than interviews. What cannot be denied is that questions surrounding identity, immigration, and national values continue occupying a central place in Australian politics. For many Australians, these debates are deeply personal. They involve family history, they involve citizenship, they involve belonging, they involve the future direction of the country. That is why interviews like this generate so much attention far beyond Parliament House. As Australia continues navigating economic pressures, international uncertainty, and changing demographics, discussions about national identity are unlikely to disappear. Instead, they will probably become even more prominent as political parties present competing visions for Australia's future. Some will emphasise multiculturalism as a defining national strength. Others will place greater emphasis on shared civic identity and common institutions. Most Australians likely see value in both social cohesion and cultural diversity, even if they disagree about where the balance should lie. This week's interview highlighted exactly how passionate those discussions have become. It wasn't simply an argument about one political slogan. It was a broader debate about what brings Australians together, how national identity evolves over time, and what future generations should inherit. Whether viewers ultimately agree with Senator Hanson's arguments or reject them, the conversation itself has once again placed national identity firmly back at the centre of Australia's political debate. And judging by the reactions this week, that conversation is far from over. So what do you think? What does being Australian mean in today's Australia? Can strong national identity and cultural diversity comfortably exist together? And how should political leaders approach these conversations while keeping communities united? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Australian politics, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends and family. With debates over identity, immigration, and Australia's future continuing to shape national politics, there will undoubtedly be many more important conversations ahead.